Star Wars 7x7 episode 2020. All right, we've got a Jedi business episode here for you. We're talking about the Rise of Skywalker and its box office totals for its fourth weekend in release. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode, so here we go. Right now, the estimated totals are that The Rise of Skywalker has hit $989 million worldwide at the box office. Of that, $511 million is international, which means that, if I do the math very quickly, 478. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, 478 million is the domestic box office total. That means The Rise of Skywalker is going to cross two particular box office milestones within the next week, possibly before we get to its fifth weekend of release. The first one of those will be it crossing $1 billion globally at the box office. In fact, it's possible that could happen today, Tuesday, the day that this episode comes out. Might be one more day depending on international, Wednesday, maybe. But for sure, it's going to cross a billion at the box office before we get to the weekend. The other milestone, and it's, kind of hit or miss, I think it'll probably take the full weekend for it to get there, is 500 million, half a billion, domestically at the box office. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it's already crossed that internationally, but it's making around 2 or 3 million during each individual weekday, and so it doesn't seem like it's going to make 22 million over the course of the first few weekdays before we get into the weekend box office. So I would say probably by the end of next weekend, we'll have half a billion. This weekend was also the weekend that The Rise of Skywalker was dethroned as the weekend box office champ. 1917, the war movie from Sam Mendes, won 2 Golden Globes and opened wide this past weekend, as opposed to having played in only, a limited amount of theaters just to be able to qualify for the Oscars this year. And so that movie knocked The Rise of Skywalker into second place at the box office. So this is happening on the fourth weekend of The Rise of Skywalker's release, and just for fun, I went and looked back. That is equivalent with The Last Jedi and Rogue One. Both of those movies fell out of the top of the box office in their fourth weekend of release. Solo, third weekend of its release, it fell out of the top spot. And The Force Awakens, fifth weekend of its release, it was knocked off of the top spot. So in line with Rogue One and The Last Jedi, better than Solo, not as good as The Force Awakens, but really, from a box office performance perspective, what was as good as The Force Awakens? Don't say Endgame. Yes, I know. Like Leia in The Force Awakens, right? Don't say Death Star. Don't say Endgame, okay? So I will freely admit at this point, and I know that I've talked about the possibility and that it seems more and more likely, but yeah, I think I'm resigned to it now. Hoping against hope that it wouldn't be the case, but The Rise of Skywalker is not going to catch The Last Jedi at the box office. That's too bad on a lot of levels. I do wish that it had turned out that the film had gotten better ratings, to be honest with you, because, one of the things that we've talked about here from time to time is, whether The Last Jedi and, the way that some people reacted to it was going to harm Lucasfilm at the box office. And there's only so much you can do in the way of comparisons. And I know we talked a lot about comparisons with that and with Solo and trying to figure out if there was an effect there. And, I arrived at the conclusion that it seemed like there were a lot of other things that drove the box office results down for Solo that weren't anything to do with reactions to The Last Jedi. I wish that we had a more apples to apples comparison situation between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, so that way we could continue to address this and do it in a way that felt definitive. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case on first blush, right? And we'll dig into that in more detail in a future episode, but for now, at least for me, the jury is still out on the conversation, and yeah, we'll dig into it further a little bit later down the line. But before we do that, there's something that I want to do, and also before the end of this episode that I want to do, and that actually has to do with the previous set of episodes that we did on family and its dynamics and themes in the sequel movies, or the Disney era movies, if you will. And I'm going to share that with you after the break. Stay tuned. Hey Rebel Rouser, I've made some changes to the asteroid belt level at patreon.com/SW7X7, and they are all with sponsors in mind. So if you want to get the word out about your business, your product, your service to a dedicated Star Wars audience, then please check out patreon.com/SW7X7 and look for the asteroid belt level for details. Again, that's patreon.com/SW7X7. Welcome back. I just wanted to say thank you very much to everybody who had such wonderful positive things to say about those episodes where I explored family themes in all of the movies, where it turned out we had an episode number that coincided with the year of release. And I know that I'm coming up on episode 2022 in just a couple of days, and I have to say I'm a little bit bummed. There's a part of me that wishes that 2022 would come a lot sooner to coincide with my 2022 episode, so we could talk about family themes and whatever this new movie is going to be. But that's not going to be the case. I've even thought about going back and erasing whatever episode is going to be the 2022nd episode once 2022 comes around, so that it can definitively be an episode about family themes and whatever that movie is going to be. But no, we're not going to do any time traveling like that. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your kind words about those episodes, and I hope you, like me, are looking forward to what Lucasfilm comes up with next in the movie realm. It's still an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan, even if you have had challenges with The Rise of Skywalker or The Last Jedi or Solo or Rogue One. I mean, we all have challenges with these movies and stories, one or another, and so I hope that as new stories come out that you are able to find a lot of things that you love. And that's what we'll continue to talk about here on Star Wars 7x7. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode, as always. And may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
Star Wars 7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2020 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.